long as I can adopt your boys.
You can. Why
You know what? I'm happy. I'll take them.
not? Mine's been painting the kitchen this week, so I can't give them up.
Oh, that's convenient.
Well, he's quarantined, so he
Can't go anywhere.
So we said, well, we have work for you.
That's awesome.
Yep. And he's gonna do the front hall.
Maybe Alyssa
He's
should.
gonna get rid of the wallpaper and paint.
Oh, that's nice.
It's Soviet era wallpaper.
It's what?
It's Soviet era. The previous owners were Russian.
Oh, really? Soviet era. Oh,
Yeah, Soviet era.
that's
There were
funny.
actually light fixtures with Russian writing on them over there.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yep. Someone to need this too. Battery? I have battery. Bring that to me.
You know, I did ultimately find the weekday, the Shabbat morning text to it was really funny. Well, I'm like, oh,
We've done it on the show.
we never did, but I do now know where it, that I wasn't music I had.
We're good.
Yeah,
I love the Zim, it's fun.
yeah, it's fierce.
Yeah, no, Lipson is fierce.
Oh, okay. Wait, which one were? Oh, the Zim, and tomorrow we're doing the
Tomorrow
Lipson.
we're doing Lipson, that's fierce.
That's what I was. Yeah. Oh, my mask.
Yep.
Yai, dai, 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 yai, dai, dai,
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good to see everybody here and out there. I can't see you, but I know you can see us. I thought, since we've had like a kind of a group on Friday nights, this would be a great night to try and ask the rabbi. We're a little small, so for those of you who have a question, you'll have a chance to ask it. If anybody happens to know my cell number, you could text one in, I guess, and I'll, huh? Or they could text Brina, either one of them, or Karen, and they can pass on the questions. I'm not going to announce my cell phone number
On air?
On the stream, however.
I can't imagine why not.
Something seems off about that. But we welcome everybody as usual. We will, for now, we will give you 2 page numbers. The first is the page number in the Shabbat-only Mishkan Tefillah. The second is the full version with weekdays and festivals. I know that one of the people who is using the full version is actually going to be here tomorrow, and I'm going to give her a copy of the Shabbat one. So that, so if you are using the full version, let me know. If not, we may give up on the extra pages because I'm not sure everybody needs them. So we are going to begin on page 8 or 126. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. We continue with the lighting of the Shabbat candles, found on pages 2 and 3. Did we ask for a volunteer tonight? Karen? There we go. No, but if I do this, it will help.
Okay.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We turn to the bottom of page 10 or 128 as we sing Shabbat HaMalkah.
Shabbat
Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai. Raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is a great God, the great ruler of all divine beings. In God's hands are the depths of the earth. The peaks of the mountains are God's. God's is the sea, God made it, and the land which God's hands fashioned. Come, let us bow down and kneel. Bend the knee before Adonai our Maker. For Adonai is our God, and we are the people God tends, the flock in God's care. Oh, if you would but heed God's charge this day. We turn to pages 20 and 21, or 138 and 139, as we welcome in Shabbat singing Lecha Dodi. We'll sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. For the last verse, we'll rise, we'll face the open doors. At home, you can face the entrance of your house to welcome in the Shabbat Kavod. Page 26 or 144.
Israel, Amen.
ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, v'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai tzevaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv haravim.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael, Amchavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu lemadta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, B'shokbeinu v'komenu, Nasiach b'chukecha, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה. מאהבתך תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Amen.
שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות בידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
The middle of page 39 or 157, we read responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Hashkivenu on page 42 or 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Lishalom, V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Lishalom, V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Lishalom, V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim.
V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim.
Ushmor Tzeitenu, Uvoenu, Lechaim Shalom, Ne'ata v'Adolam. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Lishalom, V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Lishalom, V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Lishalom, V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Baruch atah Adonai, Haborei Sukkot Shalom Aleinu v'Yakol Amo Yisrael v'Yerushalayim.
Amen. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. We rise for tefillah on page 46 or 164. Page 55 or 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise.
Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch hu baruch shemo.
Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael utefilatam be'ahava tekabel utehi l'ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha el karov l'chol koran panei el avadecha v'chonenu shefoch ruchacha aleinu v'techezena einenu b'shuvcha l'tzion b'rachamim Baruch atah Adonai hamachazir shechinato l'tzion. Page 58 or 176.
Modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu
page 60 or 178 with Shalom Rav, our prayer for peace.
Shalom Rav. Baruch atah Adonai, Mevarech Amo Yisrael b'shalom.
Amen. We take a few moments now to pray or meditate in silence. Mishaberach is on page 253 or 371. Sheberach Avotenu v'Imotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel v'Leah. Hu Yevarech et HaCholim. We ask God's blessing upon those we love who are in need of healing. If Anyone, either here or at home, has the name of a loved one for whom our healing prayer might bring comfort, please share their name aloud. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem, Lahachalimam Ulerapotam Ulahachazikam. Vayishlach Lehem Mehera Refuah, Refuah Shlema Min HaShamayim, Refuat HaNefesh uRefuat HaGuf, Hashta Be'agala uVizman Kariv v'Nomar. Amen.
Mishaberach imortenu mikor hamracha liavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Page 261 or 379. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu shetechadesh aleinu et hachodesh haba letova v'livracha. Our God and God of our ancestors, may the new month bring us goodness and blessing. May we have long life, peace, prosperity, a life exalted by love of Torah and reverence for the divine, a life in which the longings of our hearts are fulfilled for good. Rosh Chodesh Kislev Yehiye B'Yom Shlishi. The new month of Kislev begins on Monday night. That means winter's here, but Hanukkah's coming, so that's good. So, I'm going to come down to the Torah table, I think this will work. We're going to try Ask the Rabbi. I'll try to give people some notice next time, but it just occurred to me that if we had people here, we could give it a try. So, I know Seth has a question. I have one from Karen. So, Seth, why don't you start? And I'll repeat it for everybody.
In the Parsha a few weeks ago with Cain and Abel, they talked about afterwards the curse of Cain. I wonder what the curse is.
Okay, so what Seth asked was about the Torah portion Breshit and the curse of Cain, which actually in Hebrew is the mark of Cain. It's an oat that God puts on Cain after he kills Abel. And according to Torah, it is there. Trina says it's a big L for, it's actually there to protect him because God is furious that he's killed Abel, though we can discuss some other time how God might have goaded him into it or not stopped him when he should have. But in any case, the punishment that we learn later for murder is actually execution. We learn that after the story of Noah, but that doesn't happen to Cain. And perhaps it's because nobody had died yet, and so he had no idea what was going to happen when he hit his brother. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But for whatever reason, God spares him, and Cain's complaint is, because God also says you're going to be a wanderer, nad vanod, you're going to end up wandering around and never settle down. And Cain complains, yeah, but anywhere I go, they're going to be suspicious of me and they're going to attack me. God says, I'm going to put a mark on you, so that anyone who attacks you will be avenged sevenfold. So originally the mark of Cain is meant to be a protection for him. However, once the interpreters get their hands on it, it morphs into something bad. It's the mark of someone who's done something evil. Now, the Torah is very strange about Cain because it says he's going to be a wanderer forever, and the very next thing that happens is he founds a city. So the Torah is ambivalent about him. He gets married, he has some kids, but it is not through him that most of humanity will descend. It's going to be from Adam and Eve's son Seth. He is going to be kind of the progenitor of the generations that are going to lead to Noah, and Cain's generation, because of the mark, as tradition says, becomes kind of the evildoers of the world. Now, unfortunately, people have used the mark of Cain to suggest that people who look different or are differently abled or have a different color skin bear the mark of Cain. And this was one of the ways that people throughout history have justified enslaving people and executing people and treating people with defects, what we would think of as not normal bodies or not normal abilities, to be deficient in some way, to have been marked by God. So it's unfortunate that is the way that came down. It goes to show you can use the Torah for good and you can use it for bad. In Stephen Schwartz's musical Children of Eden, which covers, Karen's swooning over there, which covers the story of Adam and Eve through the story of the flood, when the flood happens, it is the descendants of Noah and his children who are going to get on the ark, and Noah's son's spouses. And nobody who has the mark of Cain, according to this, which is kind of a modern musical midrash, is allowed on the boat. Because that way, that group who've done evil will be wiped out. But I think it's the youngest son, Japheth, ends up with a girl who's got the mark of Cain, and he sneaks her on the boat. And we don't know what trouble happened after that. She seems very nice, actually. But that's what that's all about. Okay? Karen's is next, because it's about this week's Parsha. She wrote it down for me. So this week's Parsha is Chaye Sarah, which begins with the death of Sarah and Abraham buying the cave of Machpelah as a place to bury her, near what is now Hebron. And then Abraham sort of wakes up and realizes, oh my gosh, I forgot to find a wife for Isaac. He's around 40 at this point, which in ancient days is close to death. So that's a long time to wait to find a wife for your son. He sends his servant Eliezer back to their homeland of Haran in Syria to find a wife for Isaac. He doesn't want him to marry a Canaanite. Although everybody else is an idolater back then, he figures he'll have more influence with somebody from his clan. Eliezer goes to Haran. He offers one of the first prayers in the Torah. He says, if God, please send me some luck, because he doesn't know from God. He uses the word for luck. But send me some luck, and let it be that the first woman who comes by, he's at the well, because everybody hung out at the well, because everybody needed water at least once a day. And so he hangs out there and waits. He says, the first woman who comes by and offers me water, the way I read it is, who's a mensch, will be the one. Well, sure enough, Rebekah, who is Isaac's first cousin, comes by. She not only offers him water, but she offers to water his camels. 10 camels at 25 gallons a camel. That's how much camels need. That's a big schlep. So he realizes, oh boy, she's a catch. So they go back to her house, and her family asks her if she's willing to marry Isaac. Having not met him, but that wasn't so unusual in those days. And it is actually from that story that we learn that even in an arranged marriage, the bride must give permission. And if you know Fiddler on the Roof, that's why Tzeitel doesn't have to marry Laserwolf. Okay? Her dad might try to coerce her, but if she says no, it's no. Rebekah, of course, agrees. She goes back to Canaan and meets Isaac. According to the text, she's on a camel. She puts on a veil out of modesty, and that actually is why Jewish brides wear veils. And according to Torah, Vatipol me'al hagamal, she, usually translated, she alit from her camel. Literally, Vatipol, from the root nafal, she fell off her camel. That could be for love at first sight. It could be there was something funny looking about Isaac, and she fell off her camel when she realized what she'd gotten herself into. We don't really know. And they marry, and they, of course, have their twins, Jacob and Esau. That's next week. And the question, sorry, I didn't even get to the question. Why does the matriarch Rebekah get so much more attention in the Torah than Sarah or Rachel and Leah? So I've thought about that. And I think there's two answers. One is that she is the only matriarch who is the only wife of her husband. So Abraham had Sarah, he sort of had Hagar, and at the end of this portion, we find out, because Sarah dies at the beginning, that he had a bunch of other wives and a bunch of other kids. Jacob, of course, ends up with 4 wives, right? But Isaac only has 1. And so maybe we can give her a little more attention, or she gets a little more spotlight because she's the only one. But I think the second reason is that she's more of a prime mover. than the other matriarchs. She actually takes hold of her life. She makes things happen. We'll find out next week that when she's unable to have children, as Sarah before her and Rachel after her, and many other biblical women have that problem, she goes to God to complain and pray. And God answers her. I believe she's certainly the first matriarch, the first woman, a Jewish woman who gets spoken to. I think Hagar does before her. But she takes matters into her own hands. And even though we may have issues with the way she handles Isaac and Jacob and Esau, she has been told that he will be the one to carry on the covenant, and later on in the story she makes sure that happens. So that's my sense, is she's a strong woman, and she makes things happen. She moves the story along, and that's why we hear more from her. All right. Any others? I didn't get any text except that somebody challenged me to blog it. So. Well, you know, that can happen. They don't know I'm at services. Adele. Yes.
Why do we do it? How do we do it correctly?
Okay. Adele asked about the choreography at the end of Kaddish. Now, I'm going to start by telling you that that choreography is not actually from the Kaddish. It's actually from Tefillah. Okay? The way Tefillah choreography works. So we'll start with Tefillah and then I'll take you to Kaddish. The rabbis imagine that when we do Tefillah, we're walking into the sovereign's throne room. We're walking into God's throne room. So traditionally what happens when you start Tefillah is you take a few steps forward, as if you're walking into the throne room, right? During Avot, the first blessing, you bow when you say Baruch Atah Adonai, as if you're bowing to the king or queen. If we went into Buckingham Palace, that's what we would be trained to do, right? So, at the end of Tefillah, which ends normally silently with Oseh Shalom, right? What do? You don't turn your back and walk out on the queen. You back up. And then you bow before you leave, right? That's what we're doing at the end of Tefillah. Now, because Tefillah ends with Oseh Shalom, and so does Kaddish, we do the same thing. It's really because it's copying what we already did in Tefillah. So what do? We're backing away because we're leaving the throne room and we're not going to turn our back on God. So we back up 3 steps and we bow in all directions. Left, right, forward. And then we can step back up to where we were. So that's what that's all about. The choreography in the service has a lot to do with kind of imagining yourself in that place. When we do morning tefillah and morning kedusha and we get up on our toes for kadosh kadosh, what we're doing there is trying to see what Isaiah saw when he had a vision of God on a throne with little seraphim floating around him. So that's what we do for Kaddish. Any others? Time for one more, maybe. No? Good? Al. Well, you always have one. Huh?
I try. Like 2 things, but Rabbi Sachs, we lost Rabbi Sachs.
We did. We lost Rabbi Jonathan Sachs this
And we all
week.
know about him and all the wonderful things we study about him all the time.
Yeah.
And he's an Orthodox rabbi,
Yes.
but we know him.
Yeah.
Do you think Reform Judaism promotes ourselves well enough?
So the question is, we all knew Rabbi Sachs very well, Alav Shalom, one of the great teachers of our generation. He was Orthodox. He was not a fan of Reform Judaism, by the way.
So I didn't want to know that.
But that doesn't diminish what he had to teach us. It diminishes him but it's Shiva, so we're not going to talk about it. But the question was, do we promote ourselves well enough? No, we don't.
Okay, that's good.
We
Thank you.
definitely do not. We are, in the U.S., remember, we are the largest movement of the 3. And so the Reform movement in the U.S. kind of dictates Judaism to a degree in the U.S. That's why they're the ones who made the resolution on patrilineal descent, but the rest of the Jewish world didn't accept it, including Canada, because being not the largest movement in Canada, we want to try to have more Klal Yisrael. We want to have better relations with the other movements. There's a limit. We don't let them push us around too much, but because of that, because we're smaller, we need to work harder to promote ourselves. And fortunately, our CCRJ, our Canadian Council for Reform Judaism, has actually been working on that. The last couple of years has done a long-range plan and has done some branding kind of exercises and things that will hopefully get our word out, that we're not Judaism light, we are not those Jews who don't do anything. We're not the little church on the hill, and we're not that place that I would never go to. And we have that, and that is not fostered by us, of course. It's fostered by other movements, that we're less, that we're lower, that we're not as real, right? And you and I both know that throughout the years, people come here to worship with us from other synagogues that aren't Reformed, say that was the loveliest service I've ever been to. I love the music, I felt included, I felt, but I could never join because you're Reformed.
But they're surprised.
They're surprised. And they're sometimes surprised how traditional we are and how much we care about it. So we're working on it. But it's up to everybody out there, everybody in here. We're all part of the membership committee, and we're all part of the Reform Ambassador Committee. So we need to tell people we're real and we're serious, and we have real philosophy behind the reasons we do things. Good question, Al. Claude, one more. Yeah, please.
Something this week about this whole issue.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is that the reverend in Israel decided that we're illegitimate,
Yes.
and we need to change that.
We do. What Claude said was that the rabbinate in Israel has decided we're illegitimate. Well, they decided that long ago. I think one of the chief rabbis there recently said that we're worse than nuclear weapons. So that's partly our job, to help build up our movement in Israel and to help support them. We have a sister congregation, Yosma. We should be supporting them. You should be associate members of Yosma. We should be, when we can go, we should be going to Reform synagogues. We should be supporting the Leo Beck School in Haifa. We should be supporting the Israel Religious Action Center, and they're the ones who are making inroads with our movement. There's over 50 Reform synagogues in Israel now. And it's their job and it's our job to spread the word. So you're right, Claude. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And on IMPJ, the Israel Movement for Progressive Judaism. Pick your Reform movement cause and in Israel and support it. And Maram is the Reform rabbis, and they do not get paid well, so you can support them too. Thank you, everybody. Good question. See, we didn't need a big crowd. Everybody have a question, we're good to go. Okay, we are going to turn to the middle of page 282 or 586 as we rise for Alid. Give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. O may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever.
Adonai echad.
Please be seated. Page 289 or 593. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love we are comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 294 or 598. At this time, our Hartzion family extends its sympathies to our members and their families who have suffered a recent loss. Susan and James Rowan and Erica on the loss of their mother, mother-in-law, and grandmother, Ethel Bergstein. Shay Eckler, Shelley Glick, and Brina Taylor on the loss of their cousin, Larry Berman. Pam and Danny Zimmerman, Jason and Fernanda, Adam and Matthew on the loss of their mother, mother-in-law, and grandmother, Florence Katz. Talia and Patrice Gaborio, Benjamin, Remy, and Shayna on the loss of their mother, mother-in-law, and grandmother, Rena Levy. Riddell Covent, Andrea and Jason on the loss of their husband and father, Warren Covent. Rob and Ruth Brickman, Jacob and Daniel on the loss of their mother, mother-in-law, and grandmother, Sarah Brickman. Sev Perlman, Bela, Abby, and Sam on the loss of their grandmother and great-grandmother, Elena Chvetskaya. We also observe Shloshim for Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. We remember, too, those whose yahrzeits we observe. Yetta Berman, Ethel Brown, Tina Helen Brown, Rachel Chesis, Sadie Cohn, Saul Cohn, Ian Davidson, Meyer George Drutz, Gertrude Friedman, Kenneth Freeman, Elsie Furman, Sarah Gaum, Abram Goldberg, David Greenberg, Terry Greenberg, Edith Harnick, Rosalie Matzdorf, Deborah Neskel, Pauline Newstead, Lisa Ann Lauren Poslins, Jane Robinson, Joe Rosen, Laura Schachter, Ernestina Shatton, Selma Schlissel, Malka Schnoll-Weisberg, Morris Siegel, Eva Schaefer, Gloria Pearl Sossin, Harry Schulman, Eva Warhaft, Bertha Wilkes, and Anne Zuchter. As we do each Shabbat, we remember some of the Jews of our adopted town of Michle, Czech Republic, who perished in the Shoah. Olga Kamparlikova, František Charvat, Ottilie Charvatova, Zdenka Charvatova, Marie Sibilkova, and Berta Dietmarova. If anyone here or at home has a name for Kaddish that I did not share, please say their name aloud. We rise together as a community, here and at home. We remember, too, at this time, during this week when we marked Remembrance Day, those members of our armed forces who have died fighting overseas, our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael who have died in so many wars, and all the innocent people of this world who have lost their lives to violence, conflict, hatred, the chaos of nature, or neglect, as together we pray. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divarach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudisha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Osei shalom bimromav. Huya asei shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to all who are bereaved. And together we say, Amen. Please be seated. At Temple Heart Zion, we acknowledge that we are situated on traditional territories and treaty lands. Territories include the Wendat, Anishinaabeg Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nations, and the Métis Nation. As Jews and as a community, may we always strive to fulfill our Jewish value of tzedek tirdof, the pursuit of justice in our society. Just a few announcements before we conclude. Please leave your sidurim on the chairs when the service is over. Sunday, from 1 to 3:30 p.m., the third annual THZ Religious School Toy Drive in support of Chai Lifeline Canada. Please drop by our parking lot with a new toy and say hello to Susie Winterstein, who has arranged for our toy drive. Enter through the mosque, come around to the front of the shul, and you'll leave through the shul gates. So please, if you have some new toys to give, I think unwrapped. Is that right? Unwrapped, because they need to see what you're giving. They don't need surprises. Morning Minyan continues on Sundays on Zoom, at Sundays at 9, Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 7:15. Please join us. This coming Tuesday at 7:30. Is that the 17th? Is that right? Okay. Is our annual meeting and our special meeting of members. We will hear the financials from last year, put together by our treasurer and our auditors. And we have a bylaw change, so you get to vote on that. Please join us. We need a quorum of 40. If we don't have that quorum, we have to do it again. Let's not do that. So please join us. You can do it from the comfort of home. You can wear your PJs if you like. Thursdays at noon, Lunch and Learn continues till the middle of December, and then we'll take a short break. Please refer to your e-blast for links to all the other events happening at Heart Zion at heartzion.ca. Are there any other announcements? I think we're good. And we are going to conclude this evening with the singing of Shir HaMalot, which you will find on page 331 or 635.